Okay, and then I'm going to share my presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you have it.
Okay, so
please
how
go
about
ahead.
now is you can see my changing of the slide?
Yes, we can see it, but you may want to go in full screen, right?
Okay, yeah, got it. Thank you. Okay, so let's just start of today's webinar. So today's webinar title is Digital Decarbonization for Profitable Net Zero Transition. So basically, you have two keywords that not the traditional. One is here, digital, and the other is profitable. So actually, as far as I understanding that today's participant in somewhat a subject matter expert in at least in the decarbonization and then climate change risk and the net zero transition. So I assume that you know for this kind of the terminology and then the subject matters. And then additionally, I'm going to add two keywords, digital and profitable. So actually, the profitable is some way is kind of the purpose or maybe the problem to solve. So what we are going to try to do today is to net zero transition through decarbonization, and then how you can be doing in a profitable. And then that's your purpose or the you wanted to solve. And then I'm going to suggest the digital way. So actually the digital transformation of your decarbonization will be a tool or the method to solve your problem or the way actually to achieve your goal. So basically, I'm not going to talk about much in the basic, but I'm going to touch a little bit. Okay, so I'm Alex Lee, and then I'm a principal consultant in Tech IPM, also the partner with the Vincula Group. So we are working together. We have, for example, Vincula Group, we have a dozen professionals expertise in all kind of the digital and sustainability. And then this is about the 10th or the 11th webinar that I did from last year in late ESG sustainability webinar, and then especially the combined with the digital technology and digital transformation. So basically, our main topic will be at the end, but I'm going to introduce some background that can support or set the stage for what I'm going to talk about in digital decarbonization for profitable net zero transition. So I'm going to starting from in general ESG sustainability imperative and Conundrum, and then this is a motivation that actually to specifically apply for the climate change and decarbonization. And then so the way actually to solve this kind of some conundrum is to ESG digital transformation is the twin transformation of two ESG and digital transformation. And then I'm going to talk about why it is needed and what is meant by in sustainability and ESG management. And then I'm going to talk about what is some way to have that kind of profitability even in the sustainable business. So I'm going to talk about the newly developed framework and methodology based on what it calls sustainable digital business model. And finally, we are going to apply this method to some specific topic that actually relate to decarbonization for the net zero transition. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about, maybe you may know well, but I'm going to give you some snapshot to every aspect of the ESG sustainability that required to understand our main topic. Okay, so you know that why is the ESG sustainability imperative? Yeah, we know that we have a like a sustainable development goal in the worldwide global effort from the United Nations. And then also we know about the COP26 held last the autumn of in the UK. Also, you may heard about the recent announcement by the IPCC that climate change can report one of the irreversible impact of global warming. And then also Davos from talk about climate change, and then we want to be in the circular zero, like a circular economy. And then also in the European Commission talk about the like a corporate sort of due diligence to in the government interrupt to mandatory about the ESG sustainability, especially the climate change related risk management and then disclosure. And then also you can say that like, for example, in the European country, they want to be included in the like how they proceed this sustainable economy through this effort. And then also in the United States, is recently that the SEC was climate disclosure security before reporting mandate. So they are working on that. It's like the SEC reporting such as a 10K. So climate risk management related disclosure will be mandatory in sometime in maybe this year, or then maybe next year. And then also, and the company or the industry level, you know that in the United States, we have like a 1.2 trillion like infrastructure bill, and then they're mostly working on the like we so-called sustainable infrastructure development. And also, you know, in the private sectors that the world like investment fund will be like, for example, year by year 2025, we have a $23 trillion for the ESG related fund. It will be the 1/3 of the global like asset under management. And then also recently JP Morgan talk about ESG investing is a mainstream. And also relate to this kind of the investment that they announced some unification of the standard of disclosure. So some activities is going on to making the one standard like a sustainability accounting principle, like a general accounting principle that they're familiar with. And then also Harvard Business Review, the recently that sustainable business went mainstream already in last year. And then also recently that the world's largest asset management firm, the BlackRock CEO, Larry Fink, defend the stakeholder capitalism and individual company level that, for example, this is Apple website, and then they already describe this like stakeholder capitalism that their goal is to for the stakeholders, not no longer than only for the shareholder. And then even we have this kind of the imperative, but here is some confusion. I'm termed as a conundrum that, for example, listen to the MIT Sloan magazine talk about can you afford the sustainable business? And then under this topic that there was some interesting mentioned in here, like CEOs who enact greener or more sustainable policies are significantly more likely to get fired for poor performance than CEOs who do not. So it's kind of the like conflict. And then also recently there was a debate in, for example, Financial Times. Unilever was blamed by their investors. They usually call the investors involved in the like operation of company as we called active ownership, and then they blame that the Unilever their lower in the market is due to that the Unilever is too much concentration on the sustainability issues. And then here is some financial sectors also debate about whether really sustainability can be affected to the like a short-term profit. And then also there was a lot of the like, for example, that recently in the Harvard Business and Harvard Law School professors did the research that they talk about this like a stakeholder capital is what they did was actually in the harsh time, like in the under the COVID-19 that have a financial difficulties for the individual companies, whether they will still follow the stakeholder capitalism. And then what they found was it was not actually the in the harsh time, actually they back to the like a shareholder. So they so like their benefit to shareholder only to the extent they needed to serve shareholders' interest. So this is an interesting thing that we find. So what's the result? That usually the even that's not all, but the mostly that the CEOs usually tended to give way to the short-term financial metrics in trade-off between the financial and ESG sustainability performance. So what resulted? And then we have like, for example, it's very challenging to fully integrate ESG sustainability consideration in business practice, and easy way to is a greenwashing. And then Zhao, actually the today's participant actually share his understanding of like a climate disclosure projects versus greenwashing. So we maybe have a chance to hear from him in later about his analysis. Okay, so so I noticed that how actually we can balance between profit and sustainability. That's the subject that I work with Manuel and other experts in this area. And then we recently we got the result based on some digital technology. But in general term, here is the idea how you can do that, like a sustainable economic growth. I call value innovation. Actually, the value innovation term is coined in the very famous business book in Blue Ocean Strategy back to early 1990s. And then the idea is to the value innovation means that the cost down, value up. So how you can achieve in the two terms, right? Value up, cost down, and then you can achieve, right, a value innovation. So I adopted this like idea that in the like a sustainability management, how you can implement this value innovation. So this is idea that I got from the, for example, famous book by the Balancing Green by the MIT professor. And then usually that this is like a Pareto frontier that usually the effort from the like individual companies management in the sustainability and the management in their like everyday operation, there is some front line that between, for example, that here is a negative impact is more. So here is more like a less impact. So you have a more, so if you go this axis, you have a more sustainability value. For example, like a climate change, like to respond to the climate change or the environmental or social, whatever, you have a more sustainability value in this axis. And then if you go, you have a more financial value. And then usually here is some trade-off that whether it's like you can choose whether you weigh one more in the financial or you weigh one more like in the sustainability. So if you have like a static front line like this, and then the only way actually you can move on to this curve is to trade off, right? Whether you choose this side or choose this side. So only way actually that you can more have a value both in the sustainability and the profitability is to expand this front line, right? So for example, that you have a more bigger front line, and then you have a more like option to choose even higher in sustainability value, and then even higher in financial value. And then the issue is how to move this front line. Then I'm called value innovation. So you through the value innovation, you can move this front line to up. So you can have more options to trade off. Even you have a trade off, but you have a more sustainability value and then also financial value. So this is a way to actually achieve your goal like a sustainable economic growth. Okay, so here is some reference I'm not going to talk about because you are all expertise in here. So So basically, you should understand that what is managing, we manage risk and then opportunity and impact. So you should have in mind. And then I'm not going to talk about this one. And then I summarize this one. I found that this is very useful book. So I recommend you read it. And then you have like how to measure your performance. And then I look at the current ecosystem and then how your AI can support your management and then rating and assessment. I'm not going to talk about this one. And then this is my proposed unified like integrate ESG digital assessment and then management platforms. Okay, so next topic is why we think about ESG plus digital transformation. We call ESDX Imperative. Okay, so here is the one, actually the survey by the global consulting company, Accenture, that why you adopt a sustainable business practice. And then you can see that the main reason, it depending on the where you look at it, like for instance, some difference in Europe, North America, and Asia Pacific, but in general, that one is external pressure, like I mentioned, that the government or the global community or some other external pressure, regulation, some other investors, like that already talk about like unless you do any like ESG management, that they are not going to invest. So external factors, and also like for example, some pressure from the NGOs, pressure from like for example, they want to like more don't ruin their reputation and brand or something like intangible opportunity or something like that. But I think that the most thing that here is they don't think about that they are doing the sustainable business practice because of the can be a growth and revenue potential is contractually that many argue that in the long term, maybe in the long term actually that they will contribute to growth and revenue potential, and that there are a lot of the like debate about in the financial sectors that, for example, the S&P 500 company actually doing well in like, for example, ESG sustainability management, and their resilience, and then their ultimately can be engine for the growth and revenue. But unfortunately, in reality is not. So mostly that the executive to think about this, doing this kind of the ESG management as a cost, not the revenue model. So this is what I noticed that as a fundamental problem, there is there any better ways to actually to improve this situation. And then here is one suggestion that in Accenture that if you do the dual transition, like a twin transition, so actually the digital transformation was really imperative actually due to COVID-19 that we have like online and on contact and then not contacting in personal is it overspread, and the people are working at home, and so it accelerates the digital transformation in over the industry. And then so they suggest that like companies actually adopt the twin transition. So the digital transformation at the same time that they also doing the like a sustainable ESG transformation. They can be like a 2.5 higher in probably can be a tomorrow's leaders. So we noticed this one, and then we want to develop the more system way to do how to do this one. And then also recently there was a World Economic Forum also noticed that so they made like a breathing digital and environmental goals, and then they provided some framework for the business section for the executive and then some other like leaders in a company. So this is one activities is going on in industry wise, especially the lead by the high-tech company in United States and in European country. And also recently in the company level that, for example, Schneider Electric is traditionally like providing like energy management equipment. And then actually they changing their business model. Rather than providing some equipment, they are providing their expertise in sustainability in management through the digitalization or digital transformation. So it's one way actually that you can exploiting digital to supporting the sustainability issues, and also got to notice that this sort of sustainability will be the some way to achieve your ESG goals. So for example, in the climate change, we can everybody know about the fundamental thing you need to do in the your management is like a carbon inventory to get the carbon footprint, and then usually we adopt like a greenhouse gas protocol, and then usually the way actually you estimate your carbon emission is through some estimation rather than actually because actually you measure the carbon emission directly, because of the costly, it is costly and then time consuming. But in a sophisticated level, actually it is possible, it is enabled by because of this kind of the digital technology like IoT and other like big data analytics, that you can actually measure in real time and you can analyze your carbon footprint. And then also there are many like advantages that you actually implement your through your like a digital technology for your ESG data management or something like that. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about, but I summarized that actually how the fundamental digital technology like UL or like AI, blockchain, IoT can support your ESG digital transformation. So for example, here is all the like ESG issues and topics you wanna solve and you wanna manage, and then I summarize what kind of the technology can apply for supporting this ESG digital transformation. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the profitably sustainable business. Okay, so business model innovation is the way actually I took that the sustainable economic growth. So here is like we need to, like for example, you wanna be avoid like a trade-off, you need some paradigm shift for the short-term financial return maximization approach to multi-term balancing. So here is you can think of a balancing growth, balancing financial and the ESG specific goals simultaneously, both business model innovation. So I suggest that doing this kind of the like sustainable economic growth through the value innovation. And then we got the idea that how you achieve your value innovation, and then we look at the like how the business model can do this kind of value innovation, and then we find some methodology that how you can do it through the business model innovation. So I'm not going to talk about detail about the business model innovation, but so we actually the ESDX framework as a maybe you can have a develop different type of ESDX framework to solve this profitably sustainable business. But we actually look at detail about some methodology, and then we develop through we call sustainable digital business model. Actually, we implementing digital capability as the enabler to innovate your business model, and then embedding your sustainability into this business model. So we call sustainable digital business model. So if you look at the detail, actually you know that the business model has 4 components. It's like a value proposition, how you deliver your value to your client, and then how to deliver your value, in this case value for economic value to the client or your value to your customers. And then also you want to deliver your sustainability value like to the people or the planet or society through your stakeholders. So you have a 2 sides of the value proposition. One value is the economic value to your client and then your like users. And then also at the same time, you want to deliver your sustainable value to your stakeholders. And then value creation means that you want to create value to deliver. And then you have some way to like, for example, in the like a innovative way to producing and the providing product service. And then in this process, actually, you involving like, for example, how you make your like a innovation process like it's a sustainable way, and then also like an innovative way to deliver the new values. And then also you have like a digital operating model based on this digital capability. You can operate the model, for example, that the digital technology enable that you can like operate your company more efficiently. For example, like you know about the like uh, robotic like intelligence, like a process management, or the other type of the digital technology can involve in the operating model. Then you can have the efficiencies and productivities for your sustainable digital operating model. And the most important trajectory, the how you get your like growth sustainability, plus you want to capture additional value. So you need to devise like what kind of the new type of profit formula, even you provide like economic value at the same time sustainable value. So the digital, for example, like a digital subitization is one example. Actually, they will fundamentally change the way actually you capture your value and deliver your value to your like stakeholders and then your customers. And then this is the one, I'm not going to talk about detail, but basically I'm going to show later that we develop white paper that they include all the details that we talk about. So we are working on the like a site that you can download this website. So I'm going to share the site once we like finish, and then you will look at detail about everything, detail about our methodology and then our like a framework. So basically, we developed a framework for like a develop, implement, deployment, and communication. So I suggest that I can share the where you download our white paper and then you can look at it. Okay, so I think that you may have some knowledge about the business model framework, and then what is meant by sustainable business model canvas. And then I also recommend this book, like Digital Business Model Innovation. Okay, so finally, I'm going to talk about today's main topic. Let me see the time. Okay, so we have enough time to talk about the main topic. Okay, so based on my background talking, that you may understand that what is our methodology and framework, and what is the motivation we talk about this digital and the profitability to the decarbonization for nature transition. Okay, so digital decarbonization benefit. So before actually maybe some background will be good. So you may understand like in the global efforts like climate change risk and GHG emission, and then there is a lot of the effect like climate change risk, like a fiscal and then like a transient risk can affect our society, people, and then environment, and then also individual company and then organization level. And then also you understand that the mostly carbon generating energy sector, like for example, electricity generation, and also like energy like a heavy industry, like a steel, industry, or the other like heavy transportation, or the buildings. And then you can also like industry wise like manufacturing, and then also some agriculture and transportation, that all are the main topic that you need to like decarbonize your process or your product. And then also you should understand like SBTI is a scientific way to like get the target setting steps. So I summarize this one, but you can see this report. Actually, the way actually doing is to some way to like in the scientific ways to well devise how you can reach your net transition within some certain time, usually the year 2050, and then how you can make your roadmap. And then also you should understand that in the, like, for example, investment side, actually the investor want that whether you well perform your climate risk changing and how you can do your net transition. So actually the TCFD provide this framework to how actually you do your analysis about your carbon footprint, and then how you can actually well manage your risk management, climate risk related risk management, and also how you well manage about how you get your opportunity, and then how you can improve your negative effect to your environment. And then also mostly they want to know about how the individual companies' sustainability, especially climate related management, actually the performance will relate to their financial performance. Actually, is harder topic. And then also there is how you actually implement your nature strategy, and then how you can communicate through your performance and efforts through this TCFD a disclosure framework. And then you should understand how you can actually decarbonize. And then here is some way actually the technology, some technology or some solution to provide every sector that how you can reduce your, for example, energy supply sectors, and then transportation and building, and then food and agriculture industry. And then you should understand how you do your carbon inventory. So actually this is one example to how you report your carbon inventory. And then you know about the greenhouse gas protocol provider is well set up the way to get this carbon footprint. And then also you in the digital technologies that particularly this digital twin is a digital representation of your product or service or some other, for example, your business operation. And then through this digital twin, actually you can simulate in the digital space. So it does not have any a time limitation, resource limitation, and so we call this is a one way actually interact between the real space and digital space. For example, you wanna make your energy system more efficient, and then you provide digital twin of your energy system, and then you simulate based on your many type of different scenarios that optimize your system. And then you got the optimal way to reduce your energy use, and fundamentally to reduce your carbon footprint. And then it feed back to your real space, and then they can be make some decision making to how you actually actually get the optimization of your real target or real space. And then also recently here is a way actually in the digital technologies can apply to your, for example, that here is one good example that you have set your boundary of your you want to decarbonize some set boundary of your some area, for example your company. For example, if you want to set your own company, then good way is to set the boundary based on a GHG protocol. They provide a good way to set the boundary. And then what they measure is the energy flow and energy flow out of whole system. So energy supply and energy use and energy out. And then they provide the digital twin that simulate the situation, and then they optimize. So their way is actually we call optimization, not only for the system, but also they want to reduce their cost. So they want to be socio-economic analysis. So here is one way to actually digital technologies can employ, that actually you provide the optimal ways actually you reduce your carbon footprint. So this is one way actually fundamentally digital decarbonization can apply to your system, and practical ways to reduce your carbon footprint in the cost-effective way. And then also you have there are a lot of the solution available for your climate risk and nature management. So this is my framework that I wanna integrate all this STEM to you provide like how you automate your like crime risk and natural management automation. So I'm not going to talk about detail, but there are many like solutions available in out there, like crime scenario building and risk management, and then GHG inventory management and decarbonization transition management. So you can integrate this one depending on your specific goal, and then you can have some way to automate your process of your management. And also I'm also some developing how actually developing this kind of like digital twins for the climate risk and natural management. And then also there are available solutions. This is one of my business partner. They provide they provide us like a supply chain visibility and risk management, and provide a digital twins to manage your whole supply chain visibility. And also there is a digital twin for the energy management system. Also like a building management system is available. Okay, so based on this basic understanding, that I'm going to talk about the main topic that, okay, so I show you there are many specific ways to decarbonize utilizing digital technology. And then here I summarize that, so digital decarbonization benefit is summarized, for example, in the World Economic Forum, there is an article that digital technology can cut global emission by 15%. So it's a huge amount that, so this is opportunity that even using digital technology, you have opportunity to reduce a lot in carbon emissions. So why not? So we can explore this space. And then also there are other ways actually, for example, that here like Accenture that recently work with the Dassault system about how much you can reduce through digital twin for the carbon emission, and then huge amount of carbon can be reduced, and then it will save your cost. And then there are recently there is some technology activities like we call metaverse, and the NVIDIA want to like using the digital twin metaverse to simulate Earth to predict climate change or something like that. So this is the one why we are looking at this digital decarbonization benefit. And then here is one example, the profitable decarbonization. So here is I took from MIT Sloan magazine. The topic was decarbonizing our top sectors. So top sector means that the top is to decarbonize. So usually the heavy industry, like heavy transportation or steel or the heating or electricity generation sector. And then it talk about the first like a replace. So it's a green technology replaced by the green technology, right? So one, for example, that they provide for in the transportation, they provide like electric truck. And then based on our like framework of the how actually the implementing technology, and then here red mark is particularly can support by the digital. And then in some other like for other maybe some other technology you can also employ. And then for example that in the providing green technology, and then they provide cost effective and the less resource use development, right? And then also here is a mobility as a service, a new way to providing your business is a less carbon generation. So mobility as a service, you can know about like Uber service. So it's on-demand use of your car, so it can reduce your use of your car and then reduce your carbon generation. And also like a smart operation and recharging service and using the like a renewable energy source. And then also like for example, that you can have a profit through this selling back to electric grid, and then some government initiative you can utilize. And then this article suggests transformation. So provides the business model innovation. It also talk about, for example, that they provide the air taxi and then some electric trains. So in the like a new way to provide the mobility in an urban area. Actually, there are some trials that I know in the United States, in European country, even in South Korea. I heard about some trial, and then they are exploring this way, actually the short distance travel in the urban area, and then it provided by some less carbon generation way. And then here is like for example, better fuel economy and the longer range, lower operating cost and less carbon emission is provided. And also redesign, and then redesign means that how you can redesign, integrate the new technology, material and manufacturing method. So this is the one way actually you create your value. For example, energy resource use efficiency and cost effectiveness and productivity through the integrated design. But my case is exploiting and leveraging digital technology. And then migrate, actually you can think about the renewable industrial heat edge service. So you can even recently also there is like a virtual electricity service. So all the service can be virtual and then can on demand, and then less like energy like intensive, and then provide less reduce in your energy use and also carbon generation. And then alignment is like a circular business model. You can have it, and then you can think about like for example, lifetime your product service management through your digital technology. One way to you have a circular business model. Okay, so finally that I want to show you in the how actually our framework can apply this. So it heavily depends on your specific business industry. So I'm not talking about just some specific use case for the specific business and industry. I'm going to talk about how you can apply our methods and framework for in the general way. So goal is actually the balancing both financial and sustainability goals simultaneously, and then ensuring financial and sustainability performance, and then business model to generate reinforcing feedback. Actually, we are using some system approach to look at the holistic view of your system. So we want to do like some feedback loop that strengthens the deliver the value to customer and stakeholders, and capture value by firm and the firm's value creation capacity by exploiting digital tech capability. So this is one target we want to provide. And then for the individual component, actually how you develop your value creation. And then here is like create more value. So more value means that the solve customers problem, job to be done from less resources. So like less resources means the energy, water, low materials. So create more and less from less. This is one want you do in the value creation. And then how you can actually also reduce like greenhouse gas and waste production. And then one way actually exploiting, leveraging your digital technology is co-creation with the customer. So provide by the digital capability can provide a more like extended experience and like a cooperation with your customer and stakeholder participation through your value creation. And also in the business operation, you can have a value innovation, like a value of cost down that we mentioned, through efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making and control, and profitability. So how you can do that? So you can do a business process optimization and automation, orchestration with the supporting digital infrastructure and system platform integration. And then with like organization, within the organization, or you can do supply chain or value networks. And then you can also exploiting some digital twin technology that I mentioned. And then they provide the smart ways to like renewable energy procurement through for example, the digital information you get, and then how you actually get this procurement through these smart ways. And then also in the value proposition, and then you're providing decarbonization value. So reduce, increase carbon footprint and hand frame. And then this is one way the digital product lifetime management can provide it. And then economic value. So better product service quality at low price. So I mentioned with subsidization with the new pricing model. So you can know that in the digital business model, there are many different ways of pricing. There, like for example, subscription and other ways actually. For example, the enhanced customer interaction experience you provide, and then stakeholder communication and the stakeholder materiality can. So your value proposition is based on not just for the because materiality is well known in sustainability ESG professionals, that when you decide your like a priority of your ESG sustainability management, you have a materiality analysis. It's based on stakeholders' interest and then companies' interest, and then you have a brainstorming, and then it depending on, like for example, double materiality, that you whether you have a negative or positive impact to your planet or to your people society. Also the how the actually the externality can also impact on your through your into your in-house company. And then so in the value proposition, actually here is a new materiality that you need to decide, and you need to provide like material based on materiality to the customer and stakeholder. This is the different, fundamental different from the previous one you should think about. And then value capture, that so you develop business cases, potential future scenarios. So this is digital technology can provide potential future scenarios, and then you can develop based on this one in the business case. So by this way, actually, you can increase revenue, profits, so brand reputation, risk reduction, and business resiliency. So you will have like a sustainable value up, also like a financial value up, and then also your cost down, so value innovation. So what we have is not only like a bottom line, triple bottom line, but also like a triple online, right? So you increase in the like upfront and then in the bottom. So you have like a increase in revenue and profit and the cost down. So this is the fundamentally the paradigm shift that you can achieve through this like a digital business model development. So fundamentally that we can design actually this is our methodology, virtuous circle. So virtuous circle means that a system dynamic approach to reinforcing feedback loop. So what is mean by in the business way is increasing the level of captured value. So you have a more captured value, and raising the value creation capacity, and then reinforcing the decarbonization value proposition. So this is the way actually you're balancing your like a decarbonization value and then financial value based on this our fundamental ways to actually achieve your goal, your like a profitability, and your like a sustainability in your climate change risk management and decarbonization management. Okay, so that's it that I want to deliver today. So we have a 10 minutes now, so I'm going to stop my sharing the screen. Okay, so Zhao, can you have any opportunity to explain about your climate change disclosure greenwashing topics?
Hello, good afternoon, Alex, and thank you for your presentation. It was food for thought, and really appreciate it, and happy to meet you even virtually. Well, that is just a summary of some sorts about greenwashing, which I found it's been a critical situation nowadays. Everybody's going green, but everybody's reporting. But at the end of the day, the emission levels are growing, and I really believe that most of our economic opportunity, the opportunities to create economic value are being missed. So basically, those are the thoughts, and thank you for the opportunity to share these ideas with you and with all the colleagues in the event. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Hey, Manuel, do you have any comment?
It's as Joao said, and you said it during the presentation. It's a fine, balancing act. And as you are going through the presentation, I was also thinking how companies may choose to pay the carbon tax, especially in Europe, and invest less in decarbonization's technologies. And to continue on this thought, it may be proved more effective for them to pass the tax to the consumer instead of using digital technologies, instead of modernizing and so on. So I think a key aspect that maybe needs to be added to the next presentation is the impact of the stakeholders and the shareholders on these kind of decisions, because as you said at the beginning, the jury is still out on reducing profitability and increasing sustainability. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, right? Because yeah, we also think about like a carbon tax and then carbon price as a liability to the company, right? And it's not yet, but if for the SEC like the provide the mandatory requirement to disclose your like a carbon decarbonization related to your like management. And then it is a high potential that this carbon tax and carbon pricing can be a liability in a financial management way. So I think that they should be also have a deeper level of the research is required.
I agree. It will show as a liability if it is not flow through. In other words, if this liability is not passed to the consumer in the form of increased price. And this sort of inflationary environment will be easier to hide it under cost of goods or something, right? Cost of inputs.
Is there any question or the comment?
I just have a comment, Alex. This is Gene with Susco. Hi, Manuel. I really appreciate your presentation. So we do some things around advisory, and certainly there is a very big challenge with upper management doing several things. One is when they're making the net zero or these carbon neutral commitments, you know, what they say and what they do typically are two different things of what we're finding. Many don't actually, they make the commitment, but they don't have a real path to getting there. And I think, you know, when you're trying to figure out a balance between managing that and managing profitability, I kind of agree with Manuel that, you know, there is the look at things that let's just buy offsets or carbon credits, although that market may become in the future much more expensive as a supply and demand change globally. So it's a very complicated task going forward. And as we start to look at really the energy companies that are trying to make that transition, they're really faced with a lot of challenges here, particularly about the ones like you described in your presentation. So we're pragmatic in that we feel sort of that there's going to be some that will actually, let's just say, take it in the shorts on the profitability to become really more sustainable and take a much longer approach. Others will take a shorter approach to higher risk, but more profitable. And so again, that has to do with what all the stakeholders and shareholders are looking for, and how they're really strategically positioning their companies for the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. So basically, actually, the manual I plan to have a look at some that issue like a balancing profitability and sustainability in a separate webinar at the end of this month. And then maybe we can invite you as I'm thinking about like a 1.5 hour speaking and the panel discussion. So why don't you join as a panel? And then you can think about what is the best way to do some providing some solution, because I think that I found that in the Harvard Business Review in back to 10 years ago, some touch about the balancing sustainability and profitability, even in the climate change, energy sector and other sectors. But the rarely actually can people touch in more in the deeper level systemic way, and fundamentally we are in a digital age, right? Because at the time not much in the digital transformation. Is a digital transformation now is common. Also we have other like management ways, financial ways to develop further. So I think that it will be good opportunity. We gather together to discuss and then some talk about discussion, and then some way actually that we can collaboratively develop these subject matters. Okay, so is there any other comment?
Sure, Alex. It's Peter Hadji-Pierre is here. Can you hear me? Yes? Yeah, very good. Thank you, Alex. It's very helpful, very interesting presentation, and apologies for not willing to be able to speak so soon after I came back to work at your request. The gentleman from Cisco captured quite an interesting point. So I'm fascinated listening to you all, because I come from quite not digital industry, I come from the food industry, and I started pioneering sustainability 14 years ago, and I had terrific problems at the beginning because I was seen as some kind of a loony in private equity. I actually joined private equity, and I led my first integrated sustainability program inside private equity. I had the marketing driven CEO who was desperate to announce, a CO2 reduction target at the press release, and we had the media, etc. And I refused to do so because I didn't even understand my baseline. I didn't even know, we didn't even have renewables, I think, in those days almost. And what I can share is, just very briefly, because quite frankly, I can honestly talk about this for hours on end. I can share my experiences, which I probably will start to do so, amongst these kind of networks very, very soon, excuse me. What I can say is that I know for sure that there are some really, really big companies in the food industry that are trying really hard, and they have gone on some terrifically, progressive sustainable development journeys, especially on responsible sourcing, trying to sort of drive supply chain resilience, where I've worked a great deal on issues of food wastage to sort of help food security as well. And much of all of this actually goes unreported. There are some tremendous advances, but on the scale of the mammoth of the challenge that we have on net zero, it gets drowned out. And at a company level, it's fantastic news, and you can report things. But of course, when I first started in this and where we are now, the language has changed dramatically. The whole tools of intervention have changed, the management tools, the behaviors have changed. And whereas I was a pioneer 14 years ago, and I used to have to just educate my board and executives, but I've left a business that really is in impoverished countries. I recently was working in a sort of a food space where the production is in impoverished developing countries. And they all understood carbon intensity by the time I left, but it took me 1 year of coaching to convince them. So there is this tremendous requirement to train workforces to just understand the simple and the basics. They couldn't conceivably understand Alex's presentation, most of it here, below work level 2. And that's really one of the challenges that I see for the food industry, which contributes a third of the whole production of the planet to food wastage, and is a travesty, but it's a major carbon number, as you all know. So there are things that I've listened to, and I'm just reminded all the time of the people that I've coached around the world, you know, and the thousands and thousands of people that I've spoken to in seminars, coaching sessions, and they all understand the challenge, but they couldn't understand some of the things Alex is describing. So there's a role, I think, for different types of interventions, especially the one that Alex is discussing on digital decarbonization. That's absolutely true. But please don't imagine that there isn't work going on. It's just, there are a lot of people that do, companies that are greenwashing. They actually don't necessarily understand the greenwashing. I can promise you that. And in the background, I've been really an industry representative for a number of years, and I regularly write to CEOs and say, change your commitment, change your narrative, because you can't deliver what you've just gone and said, because you're not doing anything in that way. They've not even set their roadmaps correctly, etc. So there are some really fascinating sort of dynamics that I can share about how industry really works in the background. And I'm going to try and find a way, because I've got a juncture in my career that I'm able to do that at the moment. But I just wanted to say, Alex, thank you for reaching out and for presenting this. And I promise I'll find a way of trying to bring some sense and at least share a little bit of what I know from the food industry sectors that I've worked and represent.
Thank you for sharing your valuable experience and insight. Okay, so is there any comment? This is almost time. So I'm going to share the recording. Also, I'm going to share our white paper you can download. And then I also, if you're interested in our next webinar topic, will be the more general, like a talk about a discussion, panel discussion, speakers to invite, relate to like the balancing sustainability and profitability. So I'm going to share the information to join. Okay, so thank you for attending for today's webinar, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Alex. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye, Alex. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. It was
Thank you,
great to meet you.
everyone. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Bye-bye.